All right, guys, so I'm so excited. I get to interview the curator and one of the photographers of photographs of the Black Arts Movement 1955 to 1985. Let's go.
We're
I'm
here at
so
the Getty
excited.
Museum. I'm so excited right now. Mazie Harris is in the building. First of all, number one, in this
Yes.
season of your life,
hmm
with everything that's happening in the world, I want to start with this. How are you and how's your heart?
It's a very difficult time, but I think actually working on the show has been incredibly inspiring. One of the people I worked with on this exhibition really encouraged us to think of the word movement in the title. And so I've been thinking about how these artists weren't paralyzed by the issues of their time, but were motivated by the issues of their time. And so I've really been thinking of that the Supreme Court decision of yesterday. Let's not let it paralyze us, but let's let it give us momentum.
Absolutely, right? We're here at Photographs of the Black Arts Movement, 1955, ma'am, through 1985. And I'm so excited because I was born in 1981. So that means I'm only like, 10 years old. But as curator of this absolutely beautiful and amazing exhibition, what was the deeper story you wanted to tell beyond the photographs themselves?
Well, this exhibition was organized by the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., and a fantastic photo historian, Deb Willis. And so when the exhibition came to us here in Los Angeles, we took the core of what they had and really wanted to add Los Angeles narratives, Los Angeles archives. So this is an exhibition that's about many different artists, photographers, activists, a lot of different people, all working with different motivations, different ideas, but using photography to advance Black empowerment, Black beauty, Black history. And so we wanted to keep that important story, but really also localize it.
And I feel like whenever I had the opportunity to walk the exhibition a couple of weeks ago, I think I was blown away. Many people know the Black Arts Movement through literature and music, which there is some beautiful music moments, throughout this entire exhibition. Why was it important to spotlight photography's role within that era?
I think we often think of photography as supporting the other arts, as illustrating what's happening in the world. Exactly, exactly. And I think it was important for the curators, it's certainly important for me to think of photography as not just documenting what's happening, but as an agent of change. It's really helping to motivate what's happening in the world to shape, not just to document.
I think something that I do extremely well, what I love is the research. And, what surprised you most while researching and kind of building this exhibition?
I think what I was most interested in was the kind of quiet moments. I think often when I think of this period and you think of activism, people on the streets, people carrying protest signs, absolutely, absolutely. And I think I was really moved by the quiet moments, the moments of joy, the moments of pleasure. And I think it was really from working on this exhibition and being in conversation with the exhibition organizers that I began to realize that pleasure and leisure are forms of protest. When you're not necessarily allowed to own a home, when you're not necessarily allowed to go to school, when you can't sit at a lunch counter without being antagonized, to just be in love, to walk comfortably, to live life, that is a form of protest. And so that's really made me appreciate the kind of quieter pictures in the exhibition.
And I thought about, two, of course, many, but two major, artists that are photographed here, Basquiat, as well as, I think a lot of James Baldwin, and really how I've aligned a lot of my career and my life in Paris and just the teachings that they have always had. Curating can be an act of storytelling, though, and how do you personally kind of balance history and pain and pride and joy, especially in this space?
Yeah, I think it's such a complicated time that we're in. It was such a complicated time that we're in. And I hope that as people move through the exhibition, they really have both of those and they're really able to see that the past was as complicated and as rich as it is now. I think a lot about a quote from the artist Betty Saar, and she says, "We delve into the past to reach into the future." And she doesn't say the present. And I just think that interest, that hope, that belief in the future is so empowering. We act in the present because we believe in the future.
I thought about something as I was going through these questions. There's a moment in the gallery where you kind of separate yourself away from the gallery into this box that's on the inside. Talk to us about that moment because I think people aren't really understanding that concept and how deeply important that moment was because I got emotional honestly the first time and I was like, okay, I got to get out of here. This is too much. But what does that moment honestly mean? And what have you kind of heard from people that have kind of experienced that?
Thank you for mentioning that. This is an installation by the artist Adrienne Piper. She's an incredible thinker. She's a philosopher, actually, who also makes art. And this is a piece that's a white cube, so referencing this kind of white cube of the art world. And when you go into it, you're surrounded, you're overwhelmed by the violence of news images, as much as we often are, these war images that really overwhelm us every day. And there's a voice that says, that complains, I'm in a museum. Why do I have to think when I'm in a museum? I came here to escape thinking. I came here to escape, kind of wrestling with the issues of the day. And I think it really, it's a question that all of us who work in museums, all of us who go to museums really think about. What is the role of the museum? What is the role of the arts in general? Is it to help us escape, or is it to help us connect more deeply with the issues that we're each grappling with every day? And I think it can be all of those things. I think it can and should be, and I think the show is that. It can have those moments of reflection and relaxation and joy, but I think there's also really intense moments in the exhibition, and so I think that piece really gets you right to the heart of the exhibition.
It really does. It took me there. I remember also coming and seeing, and I was driving over today, I was thinking about the younger generations that I did see from the schools and that were dropped off, and they kind of combed through this beautiful exhibition. And it was interesting because I kind of sat back and thought about, I wonder what are the stories that their families are talking about, their parents, their sisters and brothers, right? How do you think younger generations, especially those raised in the social media era, will connect to these analog images?
It's been so interesting. I was terrified to give tours to the younger generations because I thought, for so many of us, we have an idea of the 60s, we have an idea of the 70s, we have an idea of the 80s. And what do I say to those who don't have that relationship? But then I realized they have a relationship with photography. And this is not an exhibition about history. This is an exhibition about photography and its role in history. And so when you start to talk to them about photography and the framing and the cropping and the choices that the photographers have made, they are experts at that.
Yeah, they're on it.
And if you talk to them about the most special images that they've made, the most special images in their families, those are points of connection that they very easily understand. So they've actually taught me a lot. They've taught me a lot about this exhibition.
My last question is, how can museums continue to move beyond preservation and become spaces for real community dialogue?
This is such an urgent question. I've been returning again and again to a photograph in the exhibition by Daryl Coward, and it's a photograph of graffiti on the wall, and it says, "The time is now." And that's such an important thing to think about. It's such an important, like a motto of the exhibition. The time is now for all of us. Whatever it is you want to do, the time is now. Yes, do it, go. The time is now to look at these art. The time is now to look at these artists. The time is now to do this work. The time is now to engage. So, I think the time is now. Museums, we can't be talking about how we will do it, how we'll get there. We must do it. We must do it. We must do it now. The time is now.
Tonight, I'm excited because I don't know if you guys, I don't even know if we're walking through, if they're showing us. I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that I showed up. So one word that describes all of these things as we close out, what does liberation look like through photographs?
Oh my gosh, what a fantastic question. I think it looks like one word, us. Looks like us. We all have to do this work. That's not one word. You. It looks like you. It looks like you.
It looks like us, know. When history remembers this exhibition, what do you hope it says?
Acknowledge, deal with it, grapple with it. I was just in another part of this country where on a college campus, I was just there last week, where they have just shuttered an African American studies program, a gender studies program, a Latin American studies program. And I feel all the more important to work with these artworks that force us to acknowledge, to grapple with, to wrestle with these American history.
And last, I always say last question. It's never ever my last. If your life, were captured in one final photograph, what would it represent?
Oh my, what would it represent? I hope curiosity. I hope close looking, questioning. I don't know. Is there a photo that can be about questioning and curiosity? I don't know. I've been thinking about a lot about Singen and Goody, and this is definitely not one word, but she has a quote. She's she says, when your city is burned to the ground, you put away art and you pick up things that matter. You pick up things that give you power, and you rise from the fire, and you rise up like a phoenix. And she's talking about the, the Watts Rebellion,
But still,
but really, I think I hope that museums, I hope that exhibitions, I hope that art, I hope that whatever it is that gives you power, I hope that you come to spaces like this and you find things that give you power.
you've given us so much power. Thank you. Thank you for this.
Thank you for being here. You know, exhibitions, if people aren't here, they're just accumulations of stuff.
Exactly.
You have to connect, you have to engage. So thank you for making time to engage. I hope you all come and engage as well.
Have fun tonight. First and foremost, everybody, I'm so excited right now because not only do we have John Simmons in the building, we're both opening clearly an exhibition in Atlanta. So here we go. Number one, I'm excited to be here because I think that this exhibition has given me a lot of clarity and it's opened my eyes to moments that I even have in my own home when it comes to Black photography and history and legacy. I want to start with first, how are you right now in this season and how is your heart?
No, that's a real tough question.
It is.
I mean, that's like there's a lot of tragedy going on right now. There's a lot of putting history in reverse, you know, and I mean, this exhibit starts in civil rights, and it feels like we suddenly entered there once again.
I was going to say, it feels like we're right here again.
That's exactly the case, man. It's like it's very unfortunate what's going on right now, and I mean, this show itself, when it started, was shut down when it first opened in Washington, D.C. So thank God that it's back again here at the Getty. And it's a collection of work that people really need to see.
Absolutely.
And especially what you're saying. You say you see your home in this exhibit. You see your life. You see your history. You see the people that made us being represented in this exhibit. And I think that in itself is just amazing. The show is like sometimes a poem, sometimes a war cry. It's a very powerful thing that we're witnessing right now. And I'm so glad that the Getty is doing that. And one of the reasons why I'm glad is because it's a museum, which means that this legacy is being preserved. The other thing, though, my friend, is that unfortunately, these cats have been around a long time taking pictures, but nobody has seen their work. There's a man here named David Driscoll. He has a painting and collage here. He was one of my professors and mentors. And what he said is that there's never been a problem with ability. There's been a problem with invisibility. And now we have these artists who have been around forever. And what are they doing? They're emerging.
I've always talked about access. Always.
Yeah, it's about access. But I'll tell you what, I mean, this show is very much worth seeing. I mean, people need to see this.
Powerful. But I mean, honestly, even because right now we're standing behind one of your pieces. And I think this is, again, something that I think people have to always remember. We're standing on the backs of people that have come before us. What does it mean to have your work included in this powerful exhibition?
You know, I'll tell you, it's so important to me that I'm here. And what you said couldn't be more true. There are so many people in this show whose backs I stand on, who we don't even know it, but we all stand on those backs, right? Because you know what you see in these photographs? You see honesty. You see sincerity. You see the stories of people. You see the stories of people and what they see. You see the lives. Like this picture here, it's called Love on the Bus. I was 16 years old when I took this picture. And I took this picture because of Bobby Singstack, who has an incredible photograph of Martin Luther King. You know, he put a camera in my hand when I was 15 years old. And then he introduced me to the books, to the work of Roy DeCarava, who is like,
I mean, is a mastermind and a master. I think of even some of the photos that I've seen and people that I've really aligned a lot of my life with that are actually in this exhibition, like James Baldwin, like Basquiat, and so many others. When you first picked up a camera, woof, and you think about how did you realize that it was going to become a tool for activism and truth telling?
you know, I didn't know that when I first
You
picked
were
up.
like, I was just taking pictures.
I just wanted to be like my mentors. I wanted to be like the big boys. There's a cat named Billy Abernathy in here. There's a guy named Roy Lewis. There's my good friend Frank Stewart. There's so many people in this show that mentored me. I wanted to imitate, and it was at a time of protest. It was in the '60s.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Every one of these pictures you see is based in protest because the lives that were experienced, my life before I picked up a camera was a picture of protest because my father was from Alabama and he saw some very terrible things that moved him north. And I grew up being nurtured by that kind of person. So everything I would make art-wise has that DNA in it.
You know, it's interesting. As you were telling that story, I thought about something earlier. I had a conversation with my aunt and how I'm originally from North Carolina and went to North Carolina A&T State University. I remember yesterday Kamala Harris was talking about the voting rights and everything with that. You know, I think my aunt was talking about how she was arrested in the Greensboro Four and all of the things. How did the social climate of that era shape the way you photograph Black communities, though?
Well, I originally started with Bobby, like I said, but I was a photographer for the Chicago Defender newspaper, the oldest Black publication in the country.
Yes.
And Bobby's family owned the Chicago Daily Defender. So they would send him out on assignments. One time, Bobby and I were in Macomb, Georgia, taking photographs, 1969.
Okay.
I have a photograph. It's a portrait of a man. I got knocked out by the police that day. And when I woke up, the cop that did it told me don't let the sun set on me. But he called me by his name that he used to describe us, right? So it was all about protest. There was the Vietnam War. There was the free love movement. I mean, there was people, it was a very passionate period.
It was a very passionate period.
But what we had at that period is we had leaders. We had Martin Luther King. We had Malcolm X. We had the Black Panthers, you know. Now, so many of those voices have been silenced. And just because we have survived, we know we'll get through this period as well. But these are some very rough times. That thing that happened the other day in Louisiana speaks loudly of the climate of what we're dealing with. The fact that books have been banned.
I was going to say
Right? Voices have been silenced, right? And now people are trying to control the media. We got to watch what we say. I'm just kidding.
I mean, but it's the truth. You say whatever you want, you know. And my dad says this a lot, but I think a lot about just even in my home, I have so many beautiful, large photographs, black and white, of just Black people. It's just so Black. But I think about photography. I mean, photography alone, and I was so excited to come to this exhibition, one, to meet you, and two, to see your work again. Photography can capture joy and struggle at the same time. How did you approach that balance, though?
Well, you know, I'm still approaching it. I wake up every day, you know. I carry a camera every day. When I'm not taking pictures, I'm painting, you know, making collages. I'm always telling the story, and my story is the story of who I am. Here's something very interesting that I like to say, is that when you take a picture, it's like a calculator. When you hit the shutter, it's like tallying up everything you've ever been up until that moment. Every tear, every smile, every laughter, every piece of music culminates in that moment. Click. And that's the same for every one of these artists in this building right now. It is the totality of who they were at that moment, right? And then suddenly you're somebody else. So the cat that took this picture, 17 years old, is not the dude that you're standing.
The same person that it is.
No, I see things differently. Not only that, I can't say I see them more clearly, but There's a lot more
There's a
behind.
lot more knowledge and legend behind the work at this time as it is now, especially with the things that you've been able to accomplish, the life that you have seen, and all of the things. What do you want Black people to see in themselves through your images?
I want them to see. Actually, you know what? Let me tell you. We are part of the fabric of humanity. And once we realize that, and once we know that in our hearts, we begin to love ourselves, and we begin to love our struggle. We begin to love what we have to do, you know, and it's so important to be able to know that what you do affects the lives of everyone, you know, and you have to be able to affect those lives in a way that's uplifting, in a way that creates clarity. And me as an artist, what I want to be able to do with my art, I want to be able to take pictures, to be able to make pictures that tell the truth, that come from a place that is about moving forward, about moving us forward, but not forgetting the past, because the present is only because of the past.
Say, listen, and it's interesting because look, mind you, per usual, no one ever knows our questions. When you look back even at this photo and you go back to your younger self, if you could speak to him, self holding that camera for the first time, what would you say?
I said, Johnny, I didn't know you were going to be broke for so long trying to be an artist. Are you sure you really want to do this?
What you want to do, Johnny?
Right.
Okay.
No, actually, you know what? It's a responsibility. I picked up that camera. And at that time, we had communities, right? And the communities were like families. And you would be out there, I'd be out there taking pictures. I'd be taking pictures of my family, and my family was the lady down the street who was like an aunt, a grandmother, you know. Everybody was connected. There was this connection that happens. And the thing I like about this show is that this show shows the connection. It shows the community. It shows that we are bound together by a certain kind of vision and perception. And I think that that's just an incredible thing. I think it's incredible.
You know, as we close out, one word, what does liberation look like through photography?
Through photography, that's an interesting question. What does liberation look like?
Liberation look like?
It's the ability to see things clearly. It's the ability to be honest with yourself. It's the ability to be able to pick up a camera and become one with the struggle. As James Vandersea said, who's in this exhibit, he has a photograph of Basquiat, is the most difficult thing about a camera is making it see what you see. But the other thing that's difficult is being able to see, to be able to get out of yourself and to be able to see.
Tonight is exciting because people that have not been able to see this exhibition get to see it again with some of the photographers that are here, the curator that is here. I think it's such a special moment for you. What do you hope people feel when they leave tonight?
I know they will be changed. If they look at this exhibit, they will be changed. And the thing about a photograph is that each photograph has its own soul. It has a question. It has an answer. It gives you an ability to see beyond the frame, you know. And once you see beyond the frame, you know it's limitless. So I want people to walk out of this exhibit feeling like they were nourished by something, like they just sat down to a good meal. But this meal is different. It happens on the inside.
Even though he likes Atlanta food, you know,
They got some good
they do
oysters
have
down
some
there.
good oysters in Atlanta.
They do.
I typically ask, as I wrap my shows, a legacy question. What do you want your legacy to be? But what I wanted to ask you, if your life was captured in one final photograph, what would it represent?
Well, that's pretty interesting. I hope it represents that I've uplifted a lot of people. I hope it represents something that has brought more people to an elevated place. And I think that that's most important, is what kind of effect can you have upon everything that you touch? Do you make the environment, do you make the place that you are better because you've been there? And I think that that's most important.
Listen, have a good time tonight. Thank you for your heart and all of the things.
Baby.